Hello again, everyone. Привет, катушики. Who knows, they know. And today we're gonna speak about journey from individual contributors to management. This is obviously generated with the AI title of presentation, but the experience and lessons which I wanted to learn before or knew before stepping to management are from the real life. Quick things about me. I'm Dima, so you probably know me. Currently, I work in Bangkok in the company called Agoda. Agoda is like Booking.com, but for Southeastern Asia. And I'm leading 3 directions there. It's like Agoda Activities, Agoda Cars, and Agoda Design System. Some facts about me, like before on preparing this presentation, I checked that it feels that I have almost a decade of engineering management experience. I built teams in Ukraine, US, and now in Asia. Warsaw is a very dear place for me because I had experience on building team for US companies specifically in Warsaw, and this is the first time when I visited Warsaw. Still, no colors. Also, I played American football in Lviv, and I was manager there as well. I'm doing YouTube, sometimes blogging, and I was ex-podcaster. But the main role for me is father of Teo. This is very important for my professional life, because I don't know if being a manager makes you better father, but being a father makes you way better manager. And the reason is, we'll get to that. So I had a very rough journey for an engineering management. First time I was offered to be a manager in 2011. That was a company called SoftServe. And who were in industries at times, they know that you can become like senior engineer, technical lead, and then you need to become a project manager. Because like you had the ceiling, so you need to manage people, even if you don't want to manage people. And in most cases, companies losing really good engineers and getting really bad manager. And that was my story. I joined there. I was like very, very bad manager. I've been in that profession probably for 2 years. I found out that I stopped being an engineer and become more as a PowerPoint developer, and I decided to leave the company and get back to IC in the smaller company. Second time when I became like what I call really engineering manager was in the company Agoda, where I'm now, in 2017, where I became an engineering manager, but I was extremely inexperienced manager. And once again, I was really bad manager. And we also will speak about that. But then I accidentally won green card and needed to move from Thailand to United States, where I decided, hey, I'll pursue finally the career of a manager because of different reasons. And I was looking for a job of a manager there in the United States. And like, you know, I'm coming to interview. I'm like, yeah, I did that, I did that, I did that, I managed, I built, blah, 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 blah. And they're like, we don't care. And basically, I found out that in the United States, nobody cares about your management experience, which is not happening in the United States. So I moved back to senior engineer role. And it took me 3 years to get back to engineering management. And then I became an engineering manager there, became senior engineering manager in the United States, moved back to Bangkok, and there I got promoted to associate director of engineering. And during this path of going back and forward, I had a couple of learnings which I really want to share with you. As every engineer, every individual contributor, one day waking up in the morning and should I become a manager? And like I'm not different. I was thinking about this many, many times. And especially when you sit like doing some Jira tickets, other stuff, and you see your manager just talking. Like, this dude does not have any job. I really want to be like that, relaxed work. I need to be an engineering manager. I'm tired from engineering. So, and this is what I see now. Like when I have one-on-ones with engineers who are reporting to me, they all coming with the question, I'm considering moving to engineering management. And because of so many discussions which I had with them, the source of this presentation came. So what is like to be an engineering manager, especially your first engineering management job? This is Oren Ellenbogen. Oren Ellenbogen, he wrote an amazing book called Leading Snowflakes. This is essential book for everyone who is taking engineering management position for the first time. Fun fact about this book, I have this book in my office in Thailand, and I have my report, like my engineer who came to me, he saw that book and like, oh, you got special book on leading white people. So now you know how they call you, huh? But snowflakes, because snowflakes, every snowflake is unique, every snowflake is beautiful. And anyway, this is an amazing book. And the first chapter of this book is actually called Alone. Because once you are moving to engineering management position, you feel yourself solo. You don't have that many friends anymore. And it's not visible in your compensation. It's not visible in your working day. You just feel alone. And it's not like the word, it's actually a gradient. So the first thing, no one tells you how to be a manager, like at all. No one. And I feel that's an old version of my presentation, but still. Let's continue. No one tells you how to be a manager. I'm sorry. Excuse me, can we check latest version of my presentation? Because that's not the latest one. Anyway, we'll continue. So, no one tells you how to be a manager. There is no book on how to be an amazing manager. If you are an individual contributor, you have so many patterns, so many reference architectures, so many methodologies. Every book about management is how complex are people, about fuck-ups, about wrong decisions. Second thing is playing coach. You sometimes can have two hats. You sometimes have two hats, especially in the moment when somebody tells you that, hey, you'll be a manager, but not without title yet. And you have this very, very big problem of self-identification when you are working with your team and you are not individual contributor anymore, but you're also not a manager, officially not a manager. And that's like super weird dynamic. Third is yesterday peers becoming your reports. In most cases, it's the story of somebody leaving the company as individual contributor and joining the company as engineering manager is extremely rare. Mostly, you are being promoted to an engineering manager from the team where you work. So somebody left, somebody something, so you becoming a manager of your peers. And it sounds like easy, right? But this dynamic changes significantly because imagine that you have your friend, right? And your friend in your team, you're working all together, and you know that your friend have a side gig, right? So they're freelancing, they're working on another job, they're telling you how they're slacking, how they're not taking the time at work, taking their time outside and working on another company. And now you become a manager. You become a manager who need to provide feedback, who need to provide performance review, but you know that they're slacking. You know that he is working outside. And you see that their performance can be way better. But they also expect you to be their friend. Another thing is confidential lot. When you become a manager, you're getting access to so much information which you cannot share. You know salaries of people, you know problems of people, you know what is their performance, you know what's going to happen in the company. And previously, if you know something, you can chat with your friends near water cooler and blah, 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 blah. This guy an asshole, this guy is not performant, these are two friends and so on. When you become a manager, you don't know who to say this. And gossiping is important. Gossiping is extremely important for us. And you can't gossip at home because mostly your significant other does not understand and basically don't care what's happening at your work. So you need to find somebody to gossip with, but because of confidential, you need to keep it for yourself. When you work as an individual contributor, you have a lot of friends, you'll have a lot of peers. Your team can be 8 people, 10 people, 12 people, and all of you are kind of on the same level and you can discuss many things. When you become an engineering manager, you don't have that many peers. There are managers of other teams, but they don't have time to speak with you. You don't have anyone to ask for advice. You don't have anyone ask for a tips or something because your peers are just overloaded. Probably the worst part is win-loss asymmetry. If your team is successful, this is because your team. But if things go south, this is your problem. Mostly managers, like if somebody is congratulated, individual contributors are cheered, there are like awards and other stuff that goes to team. You get all the losses because you need to deal with it, because your work to create effective team, which never losing. And venting down is hard. Because once again, when you are an IC, you can blah, blah, blah things. You can be unhappy, you can hate someone, you can think that somebody is stupid. Imagine the things coming from a manager. Do you think they don't have that stuff? They have a lot. They're working with people for whole day. They sometimes don't like people. Sometimes people let them down. But you cannot vent down it. So, therapy. Okay, there was additional slide, but anyway, this is Michael Lopp. Michael Lopp is now Senior Director of Engineering at a company called Apple. He is ex-VP on Slack, Head of Engineering. He worked at Palantir and other things. But he also amazing person, amazing speaker, and great author. So if you haven't checked his book, I highly recommend you to check these books, because some of them are really good. He got, in 2017, he got his legendary speech. His legendary speech, which is called The Impossible Job. He calls engineering management impossible job. And he is telling a couple of reasons why he thinks. First of all, there is never enough time. Previously, I thought that management is chill. But you need to be on millions of conversations. You need to deal with millions of conflicts. You need to handle a lot of stakeholders. And you never had the time for that because your reports need your time. Your reports need one-on-ones. They have conflicts. They have some personal problems and other stuff. So there is never enough time. And once again, you are greatly outnumbered by chaotic, beautiful snowflakes. Just because people, they are beautiful. They are amazing. It's a huge pleasure to work with them. But damn, if there was one rule which you can apply for anyone and it's gonna work, that would be an amazing job. But everybody needs their own approach. Somebody are great with jokes. Somebody don't like jokes. Somebody very communicative, and if they have problems, they can tell you all the information, all the details, and all the stuff. But some of them just not very talkative. And this is extremely hard when you need to build this people management stuff when you are working with the person who just don't want to talk with you because you don't know anything about them. There is too much to do, and there is too much to know, especially expectations from you, because everybody see a manager as a point of contact to whom you can ask, to whom you can speak, where you can get an information. But also your peers, your report, they are developing things and they are expecting you to help them. So you need to understand what's happening in one team, in another team, what is our strategy, what is business strategy and other things. So you need to be everywhere. Maybe not that deep enough, but you need to know everything what is happening. And you always, expectations from you will never meet them. I mean, you know, all the managers are working in OKRs and so on, and OKRs needs to be motivational and never achievable and other stuff. So the same is coming from a manager, for a manager. You need to build your teams. You need to code. You need to make sure that technology is amazing. You need to make sure that your servers are working 99.99999. You need to make sure that your people are happy. And you need to make this in limited resources. So, you know, we are not able to improve financials for our team, but they need to be happy and motivated. So there are plenty of expectations where you cannot do anything. But with experience, it's getting way more interesting. So first of all, you own your time. I mean, if you don't have time, it's your problem. That means that you scheduled it really wrong. You can set the priorities. One of the best managers which I had, he told me, I will put a lot on your plate and you'll miss something. So basically getting to previous conversation, you'll fuck up. And this is part of the job. Your goal is to not miss something what is very important. So, and basically it's like, hey, I can do my own priorities, but I'm responsible for my own mistakes. People are the most complicated and the most unique systems you will ever work. If you think that you cannot expect answer from Gen AI, from any LLM, try to expect the same answer. Downloading. So anyway, people are the most unique and beautiful creatures in the world and hardest system. If you work with any system as an individual contributor, you kind of know its state, you know where it goes, what will be the output and so on. People. So, imagine people who get life only in the office. So you know their state, you know their environment and so on. But now they go home and they have problems at home, they bring problems from home to the office, then they escalate these problems from their home in the office, and they're taking the problems from the office to their home, and this is like a loop of problems which are just growing. And also, but also, this is always interesting. You're always getting something new, you're always finding something new, and you always need to, adapt, cheat, win, challenge, and other stuff. Yes. Yes. We'll go to the slide. I'm very sorry, I need to finish the slide. Also, great part of the engineering management is there are so many places where you can cause impact. Engineering managers are the ones who are on the meeting with senior leadership team. They're the ones who are defining different strategies, different practices, and other stuff. So basically, you can impact the company and impact the business in so many places. And the final, the sky is the limit. It's mostly I think for every position in almost for every company. But as a manager, you can one day have one team, two teams, 5 teams, and you can switch to technical product management, that you can switch to other stuff. So it's really hard to find where is the ceiling for an engineering manager. And now we are going back. Yes, I think here. That's a meme of my creation, very proud of it. By you being longer as an engineering manager, sadly, you start losing your engineering skills. And eventually, the goal of engineering manager, not surprisingly, but the goal of engineering manager is to not become the smartest person in the room. The goal of engineering manager is to create such room where everybody can be a better version of themselves. So eventually, you'll find out that technically you are the most stupid person in the room because you just don't have time to code, you don't have time to understand everything. It's very good that one moment you'll understand what's happening in stand-up. And this is actually sometimes scary because you are transforming to the person who you was not respecting when you was an individual contributor. But this thing is happening. Management is chill. I mean, those who know, those who don't. Why management is not chill, right? So when you become an engineering manager or you decided to step up in a position of engineering manager, you understand that these positions are extremely rare. That's just, that's an average math, right? So in most cases, one engineering manager will lead from 6 to 8 engineers. And also, like, management is a representation of a company's structure. So basically, if we want to hire one manager, we need to hire 6 to 8 individual contributors. If we are speaking about senior position, for example, senior managers, they need to lead engineering managers. So basically, you can understand how organization should grow. And when you decide to become an engineering manager, you can wait for this opportunity for months. So, because you need to either wait for some people to be hired, or some manager to leave the company, or, I don't know, die. But basically, you need to have open position, and you can wait it for a month. Sometimes you need to wait for a company to come up with reorgs, especially on the higher roles. And the thing for a time, you can be a manager without a title while you're waiting. One of the biggest problem here is you will try to avoid conflict. Nobody likes to have conflict. But as a manager, you then understand that conflict is a tool. It's not something bad. It's not something problematic. Conflict is something where expectations from one person or another person, or one team or another team, they are not aligned. This brings a conflict. And this is good, because conflict is pushing conversation. So as individual contributor, right, you can see that some people are slacking. When you're working with the team, you know who is lazy, who is not doing right code, because you're reviewing their code and you hate them already. But you see them there that if you were a manager, you would fire them. Then eventually you become a manager. And you understand that it's very hard to fire people. And it's very hard to fire people from many perspectives. So personally, emotionally, it's very hard to let person go, especially if you know that the person financial thingy, the report to financial things, they depend on the company. Second thing is that you will need to work with HRs a lot. Like in most cases, we consider HRs as something in their cave, and we don't work with them a lot. But if you want to fire somebody, you need to work with HR. Sometimes you need to work with lawyers, prepare some case, and so on. So you tend to avoid that. But sometimes you need to let people go, so the conflict should happen. You will need to protect your team from other teams. If you are an individual contributor, you go and blame this team to your manager and just ignore it. But as a manager, you need to protect, so you're getting back to the conflict. And probably one of the most important skill, which is extremely required for a manager, and something what took me a couple of years to understand, you need to become comfortable with uncomfortable conversations. Because nobody likes to have uncomfortable conversations. If your engineer, for example, performing lower, one day you'll say hey, dude, there are some problems. But eventually, you will need to have an uncomfortable conversation. And personally, it's hard, because uncomfortable conversations are uncomfortable. So one of the most extreme skills which I needed to develop is getting comfortable in this. This is Simon Hartley. I don't think that a lot of people now remember this book, but it's How to Herd Cats. This book was extremely popular in 2000s, and everybody were recommending it for leaders and other stuff, and then it just disappeared. And all these popular books which you need to read because everybody reading them and everybody recommending them. And that was one of the books I read and understood nothing. But I put my checkbox okay, I read this book, Black Swan, Fragility and other stuff from Nissan Taleb, so all these books. And that was one of the books which everybody were recommending. And I will recommend you this book. Because if you think engineers are not very different from cats. They basically do what they want, they know their value, they have their plans, and even if you say them to do something, they will do what they want. as a kid. So if somebody wants to go to a management, this book. Michael Lopp section, we got it. And, I told you a couple of things which, engineering manager is bad, engineering manager is hard, you need to work with people, blah, blah, blah. But there are a lot of things which you can, to fall in love with. And what shows love better than anything else? Of course, East European wedding photos. Engineering management, surprisingly opening a lot of career opportunities. So, if you are individual contributor on some higher role, not often these higher roles are being hired. So mostly people are hiring, companies hiring staff, senior engineers. If you go higher, it's very hard to leave the company because it's hard to find the same job or the same position on other companies. If you're an engineering manager, well, especially in hyper-growth stage of economy, it's way easier to get career opportunities. And, they kind of love you more. They kind of trying to sell you more because they expect, companies expect you to be a representative of the company, not like individual contributors who are working of the company. Of course, that's transferable skills. And these transferable skills are mostly not about having the skills from one company to another. So I got a friend who is he's way older than me, and we sometimes speaking with him. And I've told him about my problems, how I'm dealing with low performers, how I'm dealing with toxic contributors and other stuff. And I'm telling him his approaches and oh, we are doing the same thing in manufacturing. Or we are doing the same thing in building and so on. And that gets me to think that engineering management is not about software engineering management only. It's all about people and all about how to work with engineers. And even now, if you'll Google engineering management and search for Google images, you'll probably find some people who are doing electrician work, builders and other stuff. And it's not engineering manager I wanted to work with. So, but in general, the skills you learn there are skills how to work with people. I haven't seen many engineering managers going to another business because tech is still paying pretty good. But eventually when AI will replace all of, I told AI on this presentation, I wanted to avoid telling AI, be the only one who will not do this. But anyway, when AI eventually changes, replace us, we can go as a manager to, I don't know, manufacturing, for example, because the same methodologies, same things are applicable there because you're still working with engineers. And the final, your knowledge updates slower. If you are IC, for example, front end, while downloading new version of React already released. And you need to learn something, some technologies are getting outdated. I remember I had a conversation with engineer who get to the industry I don't know, 3 years ago, and we're yeah, I was coding on Angular. And he what that? Everybody remembers what was jQuery, but people don't know about Angular, for example. So your skills as individual contributor are outdating super fast. People, when you're working mostly with people, they're evolving slower. So something what is working when you work with people will probably work next couple of decades, I would say. So if, if you'd like to retire on learning, engineering management is for you. Though you'll have other set of problems. And yeah, engineering management is amazing. Honestly, this is when I finally got this in US and when I was able to being best manager, which I wanted to be, I fell in love with this job. And I hope that I'll retire as somebody from engineering management. But it's definitely not for all. It is definitely not as chill as it looks. It definitely has its pluses, its pros and cons. But if you ever want to try, just try it and love it or hate it. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dima. Wait a second. Thanks a lot, Dima. I just want to ask one question. So you mentioned before when you were just starting, there was this very linear path for a software developer. You become a senior, you become like a team lead. You will eventually have to manage people. What is the career progression like for an engineering manager?
It depends. But in most cases, it's like associate. Some companies got this, you know. For example, in outsource, at that time when I was promoted to a manager, there was this single career ladder, right? Mm-hmm. So you can go team lead and then you can become project manager, for example. And there was one book called The Peters Principle. So have anyone heard about that? Yeah, so anyway, The Peters Principle was the book which was written in 1976, and it was written as satire, but then it became kind of industry term. So when the person is doing good job on their place, they can be promoted to another position. Mm-hmm. If they're doing good job there, they can be promoted on blah, 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 and goes up. And eventually any person will end up on the position where they cannot do the work, where they are not successful.
Okay, that makes sense, yes.
Yeah, on this one ladder, people always ended up unhappy and unsuccessful. So that's why there is like mostly this two-career ladder, where individual contributors going on associate positions. So let's say associate engineering manager, where they're playing the role of individual contributor and engineering manager, and if not, they're going back. So they can choose. But in most cases, it's associate, engineering manager, senior manager, then associate, not associate, director of engineering, senior director, and then VP and CTO, CEO, whatever. But it's pretty good career ladder to senior leadership.
Mm-hmm. So how about yourself? You aspire to get to the CTO level eventually?
I think I'm not smart enough.
Oh, you're selling yourself too short. Now, please give another round of applause for Dima Maleev.
Thank you.